The war was finally over. For years, the Galactic Union had fought the Varkeen Empire. Star systems burned. Billions died. Worlds turned to ash. But today, the Union celebrated. The last Varkeen stronghold had fallen. Their capital, Olvarik, was in ruins. No enemy ship remained in open space. The galaxy believed the nightmare was finished. Commander Teller stood on the bridge of his flagship, Vigilant Storm, staring at the large screen. It showed fireworks over Union cities. Crowds danced, holding banners that said, "Peace at last." He gave a tired smile. "We did it," he said softly. "We finally ended the bloodshed." No one saw the shadow behind the celebration. On the edge of Union space, far from the bright lights and cheering, a small scout vessel floated in silence. It was named Econine, and it was returning from a deep patrol near the Varkeen border. Captain Relin, a middle-aged officer with sharp eyes and a nervous energy, leaned forward as strange readings appeared on his console. "Something's off," he said. "Lieutenant, are you seeing this?" "Yes, sir," replied the young officer beside him. "Multiple signals, very faint, and no transponder codes, but they're moving. Fast." "How fast?" The lieutenant's face turned pale. "Too fast. Faster than Union fighters, faster than Varkeen's stealth ships." Relin narrowed his eyes. "Could be a glitch?" "Maybe, sir, but the pattern looks human." Relin froze. "Human? Earth?" The lieutenant nodded slowly. "I think so, sir." Relin stood up. "Open a secure channel to command." Now the message never arrived. 30 seconds later, all contact with Echo 9 was lost. The ship's beacon vanished from Union charts. No distress signal, no final message, just silence. 2 days later, a salvage team found the remains of Echo 9 drifting near a dead moon. Its hull was shredded, but not by weapons. It looked like something had cut through it fast and precise. Inside, the bodies were gone. Not one trace of the crew remained. No blood, no torn clothing, nothing. Only one thing was left, a single data core, partly melted, protected by emergency shielding. Engineers at the Union Command examined it carefully. They found one short video. It was grainy, black and white. The camera shook as lights flickered in a hallway. Heavy footsteps echoed, then blurry figures appeared. Not Varkeen. Not Union soldiers. They were tall, armored, silent. Their eyes glowed red through dark helmets. Then the screen went black. But before it ended, a voice whispered through static, "War is not over. It has just begun." The video file deleted itself after playback. The engineers stared in silence. Commander Teller was called to a secret meeting with the High Council. They showed him the footage. He watched it twice. "Varkeen trick?" he asked. "No," said a council member. "This technology isn't Varkeen. It's old, very old. Possibly Terran Earth." Teller frowned. "But they refused to join the war. They stayed silent for decades." "Exactly," another member said. Silent. They gave him a second report. It showed similar sightings, faint signals, disappearing outposts, missing patrols across 4 sectors. All happened within the past month. "Why now?" Teller asked. No one had an answer. Far from the Union's core, on a ruined battlefield, once held by the Varkeen, something stirred. Ash still covered the ground. Crushed helmets lay under broken trees. A war machine smoldered in the distance. Then dash movement. Black boots stepped out of the smoke. Dozens, maybe hundreds. No sound. No talking. It's movement. Their armor was not marked with any flag. No symbols. No rank. Only one word was written across their chest plates. So, come they moved like ghosts, scanning the area. One of them raised a hand. The group stopped. A drone flew overhead. Capturing footage, the lead soldier uploaded a short message to an unknown frequency, Phase 1 complete, proceeding with clean sweep. Then they disappeared into the forest, leaving only silence behind. Back at Union, Command Captain Rellin's name was marked missing in action. No one mentioned his final report. It was buried, sealed under top security, But someone remembered. A junior officer found a single phrase in Roland's unfinished message. There. Not Varkeen. They're not Union. I think they're human, but not like us. Something's coming. Tell Earth. And then the message cut off. The galaxy was quiet again. But it wasn't peace. It was the calm before the real storm. The Union believed the strange incident with Echo 9 was isolated. A small error. Lost ship in deep space. But then Sector 7 went dark. 3 scout teams were sent. None came back. Each had been sent to check abandoned Varkeen bases, now considered safe. The first team vanished near an old mining station. The second team's signals stopped mid-transmission. The third sent only one message. We see movement. Too fast. Not Varkeen. Then silence. Commander Teller ordered a larger mission. Destroyer-class vessel, Dawnseeker, was dispatched to investigate. Carried a full platoon of Union soldiers, engineers, and scanners. No chances were taken. Captain Vora led the Dawnseeker mission. She was known for her calm nature and sharp instincts. When they reached the last known location of the third scout, they found floating debris, bits of metal, torn uniforms. But no bodies. This is not normal, Vora said, her voice low. Even Varkeen weapons leave remains. They landed near the old Varkeen bunker. Everything was silent. The wind moved across dry rocks. The door to the base hung. Open, no force needed. No signs of battle, just emptiness. Inside, lights flickered. Soldiers moved in slowly, their weapons ready. The deeper they went, the stranger things became. There were signs of recent activity footprints, burn marks on walls, but the place was supposed to be abandoned. Then they found the black box from the missing scout ship. It was hidden beneath a metal panel. It's almost like someone had placed it there on purpose. The engineers plugged it in. The screen lit up for 2 seconds. A dark hallway, heavy breathing. Something moved in the distance, dash fast. Then, just 3 words appeared on screen. They're still here. The footage ended. Captain Vora stepped back. Get this to command now. But before the transmission could be sent, the power in the bunker cut out. Total darkness. Then came the sound. Footsteps, heavy, sharp, metal, contact. Red lights flickered. Red lights flickered just long enough for them to see shapes at the end of the hallway. Not Varkeen, tall, armored. Silent, their helmets had a single red line across the face. Their chest plates glowed with one word, shock. The soldiers opened fire. Plasma bolts lit the room, but the shapes were already gone. Then, one by one, the Union troops began to fall. No screams, no blood spray, just shadows in the dark silent. Fast, deadly. Outside the bunker, signal burst into the sky, an emergency beacon, Union command. Picked it up but could not respond in time. By the time rescue arrived, the Dawnseeker was gone. Nothing remained except the black box. Again, no bodies, no wreckage. Only that one box, which now contained new footage. A single soldier face, hidden, walks toward the camera. He raises a hand. Behind him, Union troops lay motionless. He speaks just one sentence. This is not your war anymore. Then the screen fades to black. Back at Union HQ, Commander Teller watched the new video with tight lips. His officers stood silent around him. How many incidents? Now, he asked. 16, sir, one officer replied. Across 3 sectors, Union and Varkeen patrols both hit. No survivors. Any signs of who they are? No known identification? We've analyzed the gear. It's old human tech. Modified. Advanced beyond anything we've seen. Teller turned to the Council's hologram. Earth must answer for this. But Earth remained silent. Every signal sent was ignored. No response. Just the same silence they had held during the entire Varkeen War. In a dark chamber on Mars. Hidden far below the surface, a figure watched the Union's confusion. She was old. Military-trained, cold, her name, Commander Isha. Before her stood a holotable showing Union and Varkeen. Movement across space. Behind her stood dozens of soldiers in black armor. Each had a red line across the face of their helmet. Each had shock on their chest. We gave them a chance, Rain said. They made their war without us? She pointed at the map. Now we show them how humanity ends wars. The shock troops nodded once in perfect silence and disappeared into the dark. All across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. Outposts vanished. Armies fell in silence. The word shock started appearing on ruins. No one knew where the attackers came from. Some said ghosts. Some said machines. But the older ones remembered something else. Earth, the forgotten planet, the silent. Watchers and now the final players. The war was supposed to be over, but the real storm had just begun. Earth had been silent for almost a century. When the Galactic Union begged them to join the war against the Varkeen, Earth refused. They sent only one message: this is not our war yet. The Union laughed, called them cowards, said humans were outdated, weak, irrelevant. But now, things were changing. The shock troops had returned. No one could stop them. Commander Teller stood in front of a giant display, showing reports from across 3 sectors. Red marks flashed everywhere. Union patrols, Varkeen bases, pirate fleets. Destroyed in minutes, his officers read out the damage. 24 vessels lost in the last week. All clean strikes. No survivors, no coms, no debris. Teller rubbed his face. Fights like this. One officer looked pale. Only one species ever did. 100 years ago. Before the Union even existed. Earth, Teller whispered, deep beneath Antarctica's ice. In a hidden base known as Arc 7, old machines hummed to life. Commander Isha Rain stood before a giant metal wall with the words Project Final Dawn engraved in ancient English. A young officer stepped forward. All deployed units are active, ma'am. Shock teams Alpha through Omega have completed Phase 1. Rain nodded, and the galaxy. Still blind, she turned to her troops. Let's remind them why Earth stayed quiet for so long. The room echoed with the sound of armor locking into place. Back in Union HQ, Captain Rellen's missing file was finally recovered. An old AI had backed up part of his last transmission. Before Echo 9 disappeared, engineers played it carefully in the audio. Rellan sounded shaken. These aren't soldiers. They're weapons. They don't fight for territory. They don't care about treaties. I think they were made for something else. He paused. Tell Command to open Earth's old military files. Look for something called Ghost Protocol and Static. The room fell silent. The High Council gathered in panic. Old members, some from before the Union was formed, remembered Earth's forgotten projects. One of them, a retired admiral, spoke slowly. Ghost Protocol was Earth's answer to total war. Not defense, not peacekeeping. It was created to erase enemies. When diplomacy failed, another asked, you mean like an army? The admiral shook his head. No, a storm. They trained humans to become war itself. No feelings, no fear, no limits. The younger counselor scoffed. Why would Earth do that? Against who? The admiral looked up. They built it, in case the galaxy ever turned against them. The ruins of a Varkeen fortress, a Union recovery team found strange carvings burned into the stone walls. 3 simple words. Humanity never forgets. A soldier took a photo, then turned to Livonli to find one of his team missing. His radio crackled with static, then a voice whispered, Earth remembers, stars forgot. A shadow passed across the wall, and then silence. Back on Mars, inside Arc 7. Commander Rain stood before a giant screen showing footage from various shock team operations. Quick strikes, 0 resistance. She opened a sealed vault marked Terran. Vow. Inside was a recording. It was over 100 years old. An old Earth general stared into the camera. To the future leaders of Earth. If you're watching this, the galaxy is forgotten. Asor ignored our warnings. If they start another war, let them taste what real war means. Shock troops are not here to win. They are here to end. All of it. No mercy, no talks, no retreat. The recording ended. Commander Rain turned to her troops. We gave them peace. They wanted fire. Let's give them the flame they asked for. In Union space, a final message arrived at command. It came from a hacked relay station near Sector 9. No sender. No trace. Just a single video. It showed a destroyed Varkeen command ship, floating in space cut in half. Then a figure stepped into view. Black armor, red visor, word shock across the chest. He pointed toward the screen and spoke to chilling words. Phase 2. Then the screen went dark. The message deleted itself. All across the galaxy, fear began to grow. No one knew how many shock troops existed. No one knew what Earth really wanted, and worse, no one knew how to stop them. The war may have ended. Earth's promise had just begun. The galaxy was changing. Not because of new leaders, not because of peace treaties. It was changing because of fear. A new kind of enemy had appeared. One without a flag, without demands, without mercy. Shock troops. They didn't fight for glory. They didn't conquer. They erased Captain. Grelin of the Varkeen Republic once believed his people were the deadliest fighters in the galaxy. He had survived 17 battles, crushed for Union fleets, and personally led the burning of 2 colonies. But nothing had prepared him for what came next. His command ship. The Razorfang was hidden in a dense asteroid field, guarded by 3 destroyers and hundreds of soldiers. No one could sneak in. No. One could attack without being seen. That's what he thought, until the screaming started. The first alarm came from Deck 5. Unknown intruders, the AI announced. Multiple life forms, advancing rapidly. Soldiers rushed to respond. The corridors lit up red. Guns aimed, shields activated, but by the time they reached Deck 5, it was empty. Just blood on the walls. No bodies. No enemy. Then Deck 6 went dark. Then Deck 4. Then the bridge. Captain Drellin watched in horror as his men vanished, one by one. Room by room. He saw one of the attackers for only half a second through a security feed. A tall figure in black armor. Glowing red visor, silent, precise. The word shock burned on his chest, then static. Moments later, the lights went out. Captain Drellin was never seen again. Only one thing remained on the Razorfang's main screen, found days later by scavengers. This is not your war anymore. Union forces weren't spared either. The battleship Heaven's Edge disappeared without a trace during a patrol mission. It had a crew of 1,300, fully armed. A top tech gone in 12 minutes. When a drone found the ship drifting in deep space, its hull was untouched. No blast marks. No external damage, but the inside was silent, cold, empty. Every crew member had vanished. Only one room had anything written, in the captain's chamber. Words were scratched into the metal wall with a combat knife. We asked for peace. You gave us war. We are the answer. Union. Command was in panic. Commander Teller stood in front of the High Council again. His voice was sharp. We are being hunted, one fleet at a time. They don't talk, another officer added. We try to contact them, but they never respond. They don't take prisoners, Teller said. They leave no survivors. One of the council members asked, what do they want? No one had an answer. On a hidden moon near Earth, inside a dark training facility, new shock troops lined up each. Was human, but not fully. Faster, stronger, harder, trained in silence, raised without fear. Programmed with one goal, end the war before it ever begins again. Commander Isha. Rain stood before them. She held up a datapad showing Union and Varkeen. Strongholds. These, she said, are not enemies. They are leftovers. They used Earth as a joke, treated us as weak. They thought they could play gods. She lowered the datapad. Her voice grew cold. Remind them why the universe once feared humanity. In a remote science base, the Union tried to build a defense. They hired alien experts. Built new tracking systems, sent probes toward Earth. All probes vanished. One scientist tried to warn them. You cannot stop what you cannot understand. Earth has evolved alone, in silence, for 100 years. We have no idea what they've created. His warning was ignored. 3 days later, the science base was destroyed. A single survivor, -half-mad-. Was found crawling in escape wreckage. He kept repeating the same words. They walked through walls. They knew our names. They were smiling under the helmets. Even pirates, smugglers, and black market warlords went silent. Shock troops began targeting criminal ships, burning slave rings, shutting down illegal trade routes. They fought like machines but thought like soldiers. Not a single credit was stolen, not one item looted. No prisoners taken, just cold destruction. One pirate transmission leaked to the underground. If you see a red visor, don't run. Make it. Just pray. The galaxy began to whisper again. Not about Union victories, not about Varkeen power, but about Earth. The forgotten world. The silent watcher. The storm that waited too long, and now the storm had arrived. The galaxy was burning again. But this time, it wasn't because of war between nations or empires. It was because of the human shock troops who didn't care for sides, borders, or politics. They struck Union ships. They struck Varkeen strongholds. They even wiped out pirate syndicates. No one was safe. And for the first time in history, the Union and the Varkeen sat at the same table. Not to plan another war, but to survive. A secret meeting took place on the neutral station Trion V5 hidden. Inside an asteroid belt, Captain Teller of the Union and General Skarn of the Varkeen Empire faced each other. Old enemies, both scarred by years of battle. But now, both afraid? We lost 10 fleets this month, Teller said. Gone, no fight, just silence, and then nothing. Skarn grunted. They took my homeworld fortress. 12,000 Varkeen. No resistance. We found only the walls left standing in. The word shock burned into the ground. They're not here to rule, Teller said. They're here to erase. The Varkeen's red eyes narrowed. What do they want? Teller shook his head. I don't think they want anything. They're not negotiating. They're not even talking. Skarn leaned forward. Then maybe together, we can kill them. They called it Operation Firenet. A joint trap. Union and Varkeen forces would fake a battlefield, fill it with their best troops, and hide a shock. Trooper captured unit underneath. If they could take one alive, maybe they could learn something. Maybe even stop this madness. The trap was set on a moon called Draxiel 3, a place once bombed in the early war, abandoned, broken. Perfect the bait worked. 3 shock troops arrived at night, silent as ever. They moved through the ruins, checking. Fallen weapons and old data cores. That's when the net dropped. Electric shock fields, neural dampeners, pulse grenades all hit at once. One of the troopers went down, the other 2 fought like demons, killing nearly 50 soldiers in under 2 minutes. But eventually, they vanished back into the dark. One shock troop was captured. Alive, the galaxy held its breath. They brought him to Trion V5. Locked in the most secure chamber ever built. Dozens of energy fields, guards at every entrance, scanning drones watching. Every move, the shock trooper didn't resist. He sat quietly in his armor. Didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even look up. Union scientists tried scans. Nothing worked. Varkeen interrogators screamed in his face. He didn't flinch. Finally, Teller entered the chamber himself. He stood inches away from the silent soldier and asked one question. Why are you doing this? The helmet turned slightly, slowly. For the first time, the soldier spoke. His voice was calm, flat, cold. You had your war. You played your games. You forgot what real war looks like. We are your reminder. Teller's voice shook. But the war is over. The soldier leaned closer. Not for us. Then the power in the station flickered. Alarms rang, and the walls trembled. Outside, black ships appeared fast and silent. Shock drop pods rained down, no weapons. Just soldiers. They didn't attack the station. They didn't destroy it. They came for one thing, their brother. Within 12 minutes, prison was breached. The captured shock trooper walked out unharmed. No deaths, no stolen tech. No chaos. As they left, they played a message across every screen in the sector. This was mercy. You will not see it again. The Union and Varkeen now knew one thing. They could not win. Their best trap failed. Their strongest ships were toys to these. Ghosts and worse. Earth had not even spoken yet. No human government responded. No leader stood forward. It was like Earth had become a myth. Only its wrath remained. Back on Mars, inside Arc 7, Commander Rain received the captured soldier. He stood tall, unbroken. She gave a rare nod of respect. "You did well," she said. "They've seen our hand now." He nodded once. "Are we done showing mercy?" he asked. Rain looked out at the stars. Her voice was ice. "No, we're just getting started." The galaxy thought they had tamed humanity. Now they were learning. The truth, humans were never tamed. They were waiting. And now that they were awake, nothing would survive in their path. After the failed trap on Trine V5, the galaxy finally understood one terrifying truth. Even one human shock trooper was too much. The Union and the Varkeen had sent hundreds of troops, powerful machines and elite killers. But one man walked out untouched. And worse, he came back with a message. A message that froze every command center across the stars. You thought war was over? We haven't even started. In the aftermath, entire fleets were grounded. Battleships refused to launch. Even pirate groups shut down operations and vanished. Into the outer rims, the galaxy held its breath. But the silence didn't last long, because the graves began to grow in. Sector 12, a war-torn zone filled with old wrecks and forgotten outposts. Something began to happen. Ships drifted into the sector. It never came back. Recovery teams found only pieces, burned holes, open airlocks, no bodies, but on every ship wall. One thing was found carved deep into the steel. One human, one graveyard. The Union sent an elite squad of cybernetic hunters. To trace the killer, they tracked his movements for days. Then, they found him. One man. Alone. Standing on top of a Varkeen battle platform. His armor scratched and bloodied, but his red visor glowing bright. They surrounded him, 20 of the best. Machines in the galaxy. He raised his head and smiled. 10 minutes later, there were no hunters left. Only dust, fire, and silence. The soldier was never named. Union files called him Ghost Class, Unit 7H. Varkeen records had another name, the Gravewalker. Others simply called him the Human. He moved across star systems. Like death itself, he left no survivors. He took no weapons. He didn't speak. Only when someone begged for their life, he would stop, look them in the eye and say, "You had your chance." And then he would disappear into the shadows. Commander Teller stood in his war room, staring at a growing list of destroyed sites. "This can't be real," he said quietly. "One man can't do this," young officer replied, voice shaking. "It's not just him anymore, sir. We've confirmed at least 6 other units like him. Operating in other sectors?" Teller's eyes widened. "How many?" "No one knows, but Earth called him Unit 7H. Which means there's at least 6 before him, and maybe more after." Teller sat down slowly, his voice cracked. "We've already lost." On the Varkeen homeworld, old generals gathered in secret. They had always believed in strength, in numbers, in power. But now, they feared something else. Memory, because Earth hadn't attacked for conquest. They attacked because they remembered the Varkeen once bombed Earth's outer colonies long ago. They thought Earth would forget, but Earth didn't forget. Earth waited, and now was paying back the galaxy one soldier at a time. Far beneath Mars, inside the silent base known as Arc 7, Commander Isha Rain watched old footage from the Gravewalkers. Last operation, she didn't smile, she didn't flinch, she simply nodded. "He's ready," she said. A tech officer asked, "Should we recall him?" "No," she said. "He's not here to return. He's here to remind the stars." "Remind them of what?" Rain looked out into the darkness beyond the screen. That mercy was a gift. And they buried it. In a quiet bar on a small Union Trade World, a group of retired soldiers sat, drinking in silence. One of them whispered, "I fought humans once. Back before Earth went quiet." They weren't this dangerous. An old general nearby replied, "You fought humans who had hope. Families, borders." He took a long drink, then looked the soldier dead in the eyes. "Now you're fighting humans who have nothing left. That's not war. That's revenge." Outside the bar, a single black ship passed overhead, and all the lights went out. The next day, 6 more graveyards were found. No alarms, no warnings, just silence. And a simple message: the galaxy raised monsters. Now it meets the ones who trained them. In a distant data archive orbiting the gas giant Zarian 4, a strange signal was discovered. It was short, silent, encrypted in a way no species had ever seen. It spread across every star system, every satellite, every military server the Union thought. It was a virus. The Varkeen thought it was a warning, but the shock troops, they responded, and everything changed. The signal was simple. No voice, no images, just 2 words. Dawn Code Live. High level, Union, and Varkeen. Scientists tried for weeks to decode it. They failed, but they noticed a terrifying pattern. Wherever the code reached, shock troops appeared within days. Bases fell. Ships vanished. Civilizations collapsed in silence. One general said it plainly: "We didn't unlock the code. It unlocked them." Commander Teller called an emergency meeting. Experts, generals, old Earth historians all gathered. A terrified communications officer stood in front of the crowd and held up a tablet. "This file," he said, "was buried in an Earth satellite, network abandoned for over 80 years. It contained a classified Earth document labeled Final Dawn, Last Human War Doctrine. Opening line read, "If the stars fall to greed and pride, if diplomacy ends in ashes, if peace is mocked, then Earth will activate the Dawn Code, not to fight, but to cleanse." Silence filled the room in hidden corners of space. Forgotten Earth bases blinked back to life. Old machines hummed, drones launched, files reconnected. The shock troops, scattered across the galaxy, all turned toward one direction: Earth. They didn't speak, didn't ask why. They simply changed. Their movements became faster, their attacks more precise. And now, they no longer left warnings, no carvings, no last messages, only destruction on the Varkeen capital. A lead scientist decoded part of the Dawn Code. Using ancient human military archives, he found something worse than a war plan. He found a trigger. A list of species. A list of events. A timeline. It showed the Union-Varkeen War. It showed the betrayals. It showed the bombing of Earth's colony in 2931. It showed everything, and beside each event, 2 words were written: penalty. Terminate. The code wasn't new. It had been waiting for over 100 years. On Mars, Commander Isha Rain stood before her final Shock Unata Mega Squad. Each soldier had completed 1,000 missions. No losses. No errors. These weren't just weapons. They were Earth's final answer. Rain activated her wristpad and played an ancient message. It was a voice from the past. Old, shaky, wise, an Earth general from long ago. "You will not be called heroes. You will not be remembered. You'll be feared, hated, maybe erased. But if you hear this, you're the last light before darkness." Rain raised her eyes. "Go. End it." The squad saluted and vanished into the stars. Union Command tried one last strategy. They sent a peace message to Earth. A soft, careful voice. "We acknowledge our mistakes. We ask for forgiveness. We ask to talk." No reply. 3 days later, the entire starbase that sent the message was gone. No explosions, no signs of battle, just missing. And in its place, a floating satellite repeating Earth's oldest warning: mercy is not our weakness. It was your test. You failed. Across the galaxy, the skies changed. Shock troops moved like ghosts across sectors. Each followed the dawn. Code no targets were random. Every strike was pre-written. Old war crimes, old betrayals, old lies now paid for. In full, in the ruins of a destroyed Varkeen factory world, Survivors found a strange carving on a stone wall. The symbols were human. Ancient English. One sentence burned into the stone with plasma. This is not vengeance. This is balance. Survivor of Arkan, child? Asked her mother. Who are they? Her mother looked at the sky and said quietly, They're the ones we forgot, and they never forgot us. The war that was supposed to be over never really ended. The Union had declared victory, the Varkeen celebrated, and Earth was silent. But now everything had changed, across the stars. Children whispered the name human. Like a ghost story, soldiers refused to enter dark sectors. Commanders resigned. Even warlords ran from their own fortresses, because Earth's final soldiers were not like the rest of the galaxy. They were forged. In silence, trained for storms, and built to finish what others feared to start, in the ruins of a shattered world, once known as Velarex. A scout drone sent one final message before it went offline. It showed a single human shock trooper walking through the smoke, dragging a Varkeen general by the neck. Behind him were black banners marked with a single Earth symbol, a burning star. Surrounded by silent circles, historians later called it the last emblem of judgment. On the neutral world of Koresh, leaders from 30 species met in secret. They wore robes instead of armor, spoke of peace instead of war, and every word they said carried one shared fear. Earth has become something else we thought they were. Weak, but they waited, and we fed their fire. An old archivist stood up, showing the Dawn Code logs now spreading across the galaxy. He said, This isn't just war. This is memory made into a weapon. And no one argued. In a hidden chamber beneath Earth's old lunar base, Commander Isha Rain stood in silence. Before her was a final command terminal. Its screen glowed with one line, protocol complete. Dawn Code executed. Behind her, a soldier approached. Ma'am, he said quietly, the last shock unit just returned. All targets neutralized. Rain didn't respond. She simply looked up at the Earth floating outside the window. Then, she said, Let the stars know. We are done, but we are not sorry. Back on the Union homeworld, children were taught new history lessons. Their books no longer said, We won the war. They now read, The war never ended, till the humans ended us. Recruitment numbers dropped. Armies stopped training. Fear had returned, but not from bombs or guns. It came from silence. From shadows. From knowing. Earth was watching. Some tried to fight back. A powerful crime syndicate known as the Voidborn hired mercenaries to hunt human shock troops. They paid millions. Only one mercenary survived, and when asked what he saw, he simply said, I didn't. See anything? 1 second I was breathing. Next second, I woke up buried in my own ship, with a message carved into my chest plate. The message, never again. Peace finally returned to the galaxy, not out of unity, but out of fear. Ships that once roamed freely now scanned 10 times before jumping. Leaders who once mocked Earth now avoided even saying the word. A rumor spread through the trading networks. If you hear Earth's signal, turn your ship around. Don't answer. Don't look. Just leave. 1 year later, a strange thing happened. A cargo ship discovered an old Earth transmission beacon floating near a dead star. The beacon was silent, no code. No message. But every few minutes, it blinked 3 times, then once, then silence again. And again, a linguist translated it as Old Earth Morse code. The translation was simple. We remember. In the end, Earth sent no more soldiers, no more threats. They returned to their silence. But the stars changed forever, because now everyone knew what humans could do. They knew what happened when mercy ran out, and they would never forget again. Somewhere deep in space, a Varkeen boy once asked his elder, Why don't we attack Earth anymore? Old warrior, once proud and fearless, shook his head slowly and with a haunted voice, replied, Because the day we forget what they did, it's the day they remind us again.